Geek Vibes Live is rated G for geeks.
Welcome to an all-new episode of Geek Vibes Review. It's funny. I just realized, Tia, that usually when you make the shows, it's Geek Vibes Live Review, and then, like, recently I've been calling them Geek Vibes Review. I don't know why I've left live out, but I'm starting to notice it's becoming a pattern. But welcome to an all-new episode of our review portion of Geek Vibes Live. Today we will be breaking down Freddy vs. Jason, and to do so, to break down a ridiculously good movie like this one, we needed a full panel, and that's what we got today. We are fully represented top to bottom. So without further ado, let me introduce our panelists, starting with Tia. What's going on, Tia?
What's up, everyone? I feel like if this was a portion of a book, we would be in the middle of my villain origin story.
I like that, Tia. That's how you should open every episode. I like that.
Thank you.
Also, Dom, what's going on, Dom?
I'm good, man. I think while we're living through this zombie apocalypse type of pandemic, it's only right that we review a horror movie.
I agree, and that's from the lips of the horror master himself. But I will say, I want people to stop saying it's a zombie apocalypse until I see zombies. I've been waiting. I thought I was promised zombies, and I have not seen one yet. I thought my grandfather was, but that was just him waking up. So I have not yet seen a zombie, and I'm waiting on it. So, let's fingers crossed we get that soon. But we have very, very, very special guests joining us for this episode, and we are being represented by Kinda Nerdy Girls. We have KJ and Patrick. What's going on?
Hi, guys.
What's happening?
We will be representing the members of the audience listening who have not seen this movie.
We are hoping that by the time you guys get halfway through our breakdown of this movie, you realize how comical it sounds rather than scary, and then you're like, you know what? I'll take a look. I will take a look.
Okay. Well, that is your challenge to convince us to watch it.
That is. Absolutely. We will live up to that challenge. I will say this. I compare Freddy vs. Jason to the first I'm sorry. Let me be more specific. All of the Leprechaun movies. They're scary when you're young because you're like, what is that? But when you get older, you kind of realize, like, one, how ridiculously shot these movies were. Two, how poorly the script is. And three, just how outrageously insane these characters were in these movies. And that's what leads us to Freddy vs. Jason. Very much a comedy as I view it. I was scared out of my mind when I was younger. And Tia and Dom, I don't know if you guys remember, when they first released the trailer for this movie, I believe it was, because this was one of the scenes from the movie, it was the little girl reciting the Freddy Krueger song, and then, like, it showed her with, like, no eyes. I remember when I was young, that was when I was like, all right, I'm not watching this. Like, I don't want to see this movie. And then I remember, my dad saying, like, oh, trust me, it's not going to be that bad. And I'm like, all right, I'm really young. So I don't think you understand how scared I am. But I actually went to go see it with him, and I left going, this is a really fun time. And, like, I didn't really need to be as scared as I thought I was going to be. But Tia, do you remember that first trailer? And was your first response to this movie being terrified, or did you kind of leave going, this is funnier more so than scary?
So I don't think I remember the trailer because I definitely didn't watch this in the movies. Because it was one of those things where oh God, guys, when I was like a teenager, I was a complete and utter mall rat. Like Hot Topic was my jam, like just think I was like the typical kid like that. Oh, it's so cool to watch these like horror movies. I'm not scared. Anyway, so I, got the first Nightmare on Elm Street, wanted to watch all of that, just wanted to get like the full encompass of Freddy Krueger because he was honestly my favorite out of all of them. So when it was finally like, oh, there's literally a Freddy versus Jason movie, I think I just bought the DVD as opposed to, say, going to the theaters to watch it. I just remember, like teenage me thinking it was so cool. I didn't really think I was scared of any of it because I think at that point I was such a massive Freddy Krueger fan that I was like, oh, this is like peak Freddy. This is awesome, but with like better, film cinematography than say like Freddy 3 or something like that, So I just remember loving it. There were like a few scenes that I don't think that I could have watched at the time that were a little gory for me, such as, say, the kid with, like, the eyes and everything. But I just remember really loving the movie, and we'll get into it later. But I don't think I was scared. I think that's what I liked about the movies such as, like, Freddy Krueger, Friday the 13th, Halloween, is that to me those weren't necessarily scary. Because my thing is, like, with horror movies, and I was talking about this in pre-show with KJ, I'm not a horror movie fan. But when, to me, it looks fake, then I can disassociate it. And so even, like, probably the goriest scene to me in the movie, and there's at one point, like, during the rave scene, that there was a pretty, like, gory scene. But that looks fake to me. So it's like I could disassociate that and not be scared. Just all I remember thinking was, like, that's a lot of blood. Look at all those spray packets. That has to be something to work with. So yeah, those are my thoughts, Joanne.
Yeah, no,
I don't know.
To me, I completely understand. No, I'm here. I completely understand where you're coming from. To me, I always felt, and this is mainly because my dad was a huge horror buff. Horror movies to me have to be experienced in theaters, depending on what the horror movie is. So seeing Saw in a midnight showing with a packed theater and seeing the ending of that and everyone losing their mind is an experience I'll never forget. Seeing Drag Me to Hell and seeing how that ended and the whole theater going crazy. I remember half of my homeroom class was in that theater with me, and it was like one of the best times ever. Freddy vs. Jason we saw at a matinee, and there was barely people there. And I remember we were kind of thinking, like, dang, this movie probably isn't going to make a lot of money. It's probably not even really that good. And then we left going, it wasn't that bad. Clearly, I wouldn't really put it in horror because I think I laughed more than I, like, really was afraid. But I definitely have to ask you, Dom, the horror master. And by the way, every time I talk to my dad, I tell him that you're the horror master, and he's hell-bent on challenging. He wants to challenge your throne. I told him anytime, man, Dom would wipe the floor with you. But hopefully I didn't overhype you, Dom, because my dad thinks he knows horror. So I need you to step up for me. But what were your initial thoughts after Freddy vs. Jason? Was this a movie theater experience for you? And do you kind of feel like it was more of a comedy rather than an actual horror film?
Yeah. So initially, seeing like the trailer, I think I initially heard it from some friends, and I was like, no, there's no way, that's fake. And then I saw the trailer, and it was kind of like, you know, you walk in a house and like after grocery shopping, and you shake the food at your pet, and your pet immediately knows that, oh shit, there's food. That's how I felt. I was like salivating. I was like, this is my dream. I've always wanted them to do some kind of horror crossover, and I just was like, it'll never happen. I don't know how they could write a story where this could possibly become a thing. And, you know, dreams come true. And I think it was the beginning of my sophomore year of high school, I believe. And I was definitely, I think it was Friday night, and me and a whole bunch of people after a football game. And, yeah, it was definitely one of those, like, everybody shut up, leave me alone, I'm going to go sit over here so I can, because I didn't have any friends that were as much into this genre as I was, so I was definitely, like, the outcast that just wanted to, like, enjoy the movie instead of just, like, having fun at the movies. But, yeah, it's definitely, to me, I mean, after the first Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy, his movies were always kind of more of a comedy horror genre-esque type of thing. It was always about his one-liners and him just kind of, and him having fun essentially and embarrassing you and killing you at the same time. And then, you know, Jason is supposed to be the more ominous figure to kind of bring more of the slasher vibe. But yeah, it was definitely more over the top kind of. I mean, like Tia said, it's one of those ones where it's over the top to the point where if you started off kind of scared, you shouldn't be now, because clearly, I mean, because, you know, part of horror is like, this could possibly happen and this is, oh my God, but then this one is like, you get hit with something and you fly 30 feet in the air. It's probably not going to happen that way. So it's definitely to the point where it makes it a little more palatable, even though there is a lot of gore. But no, it was definitely an exciting time for me. And the big selling point, for some reason, was Kelly Rowland at that time, or her being in that movie. And I guess because partially we saw Busta Rhymes the year before in Halloween Resurrection. So it was she was a big selling point, which packed the theater out when I went. It was a great time though.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I think me and Dan were talking about this on Geek Vibes Live this past Sunday. We were saying how Jason X, I think, was the movie. We thought one of the more ridiculous things we had ever seen, but the
when they were in space.
Yes, but specifically when he put the chicks in sleeping bags and then was killing them with each other in the sleeping bags. Funniest thing I think I've ever seen in my life. And I remember thinking, not much could top this. And then I get to Freddy vs. Jason, where he closes a chick up. No, he closes the guy up in the bed. And you see his body crunch up. I was like, oh, no, this is the funniest thing I think I have ever seen. Because it's just one of those things where you look at it and you just go, I don't even know where to begin on how impossible this is. Whether it's how his body bent, whether it's how he was able to bend a full bed that way. The only thing that ever came close, I think, to being weirdly funny to me is the first Leprechaun, where Jennifer Aniston's on the phone and he sticks his little leprechaun fingers through the phone and tickles her ear. Those three things are the funniest thing I think I've ever seen in a horror movie. But that's what lends to this being more of a comedy to me, because I believe the movie actually starts with Jason chasing a girl through the woods. And
oh my God!
I think once he go ahead, Thea, go ahead.
I'm sorry. It always cracks me up watching that, because it's like they told this actress, just act like the most ridiculous damsel in distress, but then do it 10 times more, because she wasn't even running. She's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And she was tiptoeing and everything. And I was like, what the fuck am I watching? I was just laughing. And then, of course, because it's a horror movie, they always have to be randomly naked. And I'm just
from that description alone. All right. For that description alone, are we watching Freddy versus Jason, or are we watching some softcore porn, or what are we doing here?
It was definitely some softcore porn.
Well,
Definitely.
when it comes to Freddy and Jason movies, it's really hard to tell. There is no concise, exact thing that you're watching. It's always a healthy blend.
So is it that throw it against the wall, see if it sticks kind of thing? Is what it sounded like.
I'd say kinda. Yeah, I mean, it's just where it was like I always felt like Freddy Krueger movies and Jason movies were always supposed to be appealing to teenagers, and they were kind of like, oh, what do we think will appeal to like teenage boys that we assume are the ones coming to watch these movies? I know, just random naked scenes, and like at the time, you know, I guess that was all of the rage, but like as horror started to grow, more people were like, I don't really think we need that. I don't really think we need that. But it was very big around that time for some of these not really horror movies, but more slasher films, to have that. And Freddy vs. Jason was going to make sure it had it somewhere.
Did anyone else?
Go ahead.
Did anyone else think based on, because like, all right, so I was born in 1990. I know that some of you guys are younger than me, but did anyone ever watch this movie and think that that was like legitimately what high school is about, and then you're in high school and you're like, this is nothing what it's about?
Well, I was always of the mindset, my mom and my dad always used to scare me of like, oh, be careful when you go to high school, like, you know, if you're too nerdy, like they'll give you swirlies and wedgies and there's a cool table. And then I went to high school and it was nothing like that. Like people just sat at tables with their friends. I was a huge nerd. I never got a swirly. I never got bullied. Nothing. Like I never saw it. I was never a part of it. So I'm like, they kind of overhyped this whole high school thing. And then like, they tried to scare my sister in it. I wanted to experience it. I wanted to see if people really were going to hold inside your and dip you in the toilet, and it never happened. Like I legit made sure I was sitting at the table with the kids with like the Spider-Man lunch boxes. They're always like pushing up their glasses. I'm like, all right, maybe these kids are getting it. So like if I'm with them, I can see what they're talking about. It never happened. I asked them, they were like, that doesn't happen. I'm like, were you ever like locked in your locker? They were like, no, that does not happen. I'm like, all right, I didn't think so. So yeah, completely overrated. High school was very overrated. I didn't experience any of that too, but I didn't. So,
I feel like while in quarantine, someone needs to give you a swirly just so that you can experience it.
I mean, honestly, what I would like to know is from 2008, right, to about 2012 or 2007 to 2012. I want to know what the stats say about kids actually being, being given swirlies and wedgies. I want a number. I want the stats. I want to see if it exists in this world. Because I just don't believe that it does. I just really don't. I honestly don't believe it.
All right, I don't want to date myself. My high school experience ended about a decade prior to that. However, I can honestly say it rarely happened in my high school. I don't even think it happened my senior year, for that matter.
Only your senior year?
Hey, I'm just saying.
No, I mean, I've seen a lot of, fights. I've seen some pranks, but it's never like the pranks that you think you're going to experience when you walk through the... Like, when you watch a typical high school movie, it'll have you thinking, like, you're about to experience the worst 4 years you will ever have in your life. And I just didn't... I didn't see it. I didn't see it. I didn't see it at all.
Talked with someone who was so disappointed that they weren't more bullied and beat up in high school.
Yeah. I mean, look, at least if you're not going to do any of that, like, at least give me a scene out of Carrie, something that I could hang my hat on. Just none of that happened. I'm like, none of this happens. Like, it's ridiculous. It really is.
Now, again, like I said, we're based out of Indianapolis, so that whole, the Carrie prom experience, all that stuff, I mean, that's like, I wish that was the case, but dude, like I said, cornfields and small schools. So, yeah.
Yeah. No,
if it helps at all, my high school experience, I had my prom date leave me and sleep with my cousin, and a farmer offered to take me home at the post-prom buffet.
That's the most
sounds like a movie
ever.
That sounds like a movie, actually. Like I could go find a movie that exact scene happened in. That is actually hilarious. It's not really hilarious, but it's kind of hilarious.
I've gotten past it. It's okay. It's funny now.
But no, like we were saying before, the start of this movie was very humorous. As Tia said, it is the epitome of a damsel in distress. I am glad horror movies got away from the idea of someone just randomly running and always tripping over something. It's frustrating because it's kind of like at some point you kind of just go, I'm running, I'm not going to keep looking back, I'm going to look forward. But no, they always trip over something, they fall, and then they catch up. The thing that I've always hated about Jason Voorhees that apparently everyone else in America loves, I don't like that someone will be running, as fast as they possibly can, and Jason's just walking, and he always catches up to them. Always. It never fails. It is possibly the most annoying thing I've ever seen in my life, because it's like at that point, why do you even have her running if he just walked 4 steps and then caught up with her? Where was she even running? In a circle? How did he catch up that quickly? I hate it. It almost put me off from the beginning of the movie. It's why I didn't really watch Jason movies. But Dom, I want to kick it to you first. I believe that scene ends with she was running, she hides in front of a tree, magically Jason just appears, stabs her through the tree. Again, comedy, guys, not a horror movie. Stabs her through a thick tree with a machete, like a thick oak tree. He just sliced her right through. And then I think this is when it gets a little bit humorous. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dom. Don't we get Freddy turning into Jason's mom and kind of harassing him a little bit?
Yeah, because the beginning premise was that Freddy wanted to kill people, but since the town had forgotten about him, he couldn't kill anybody, so he had to search hell to find a willing participant where he could manipulate, and he found Jason, who had been dead for a while, and he turned into his mom to kind of get him to wake up, because that's the one person that he listens to enact his murderous spree that he goes on. And then I thought it was kind of weird that he would even reveal to Jason that was him in disguise, but Jason doesn't need much apparently to get him going.
Yeah, I think Freddy was betting on Jason being an idiot, and I think Jason is an idiot. So just kind of oh yeah, no. Yeah, no.
Man, you're really selling this movie review for me, brother. I'm telling you.
Okay. If we could just stop for a second, I want you to know that as someone who's terrified of scary movies, as you guys are talking, we are looking outside at our deck, and one of our deck chairs literally just moved all the way across the deck by itself. Roared across the deck.
Yeah, that's terrifying. That is terrifying. Maybe I should stop calling Jason an idiot. Maybe that upset him.
Would you please? Because that was about the point where the chair decided to move itself.
Yeah. I'll say this, though. It seems like he's there with you and not here with me. So, I mean, I guess I'll count my blessings for that.
What happened to me being part of the family, man? Come on.
No, you still are. You both still are. But
he's in New Jersey. There's no help there.
I have no help here, okay? We've been over this. But no, so he does reveal himself to Jason, stating that no one fears him anymore. It's kind of hard to be powerful when no one's really fearing you. So, Tia, I want to ask you this. This is kind of a question about Nightmare on Elm Street movies, period. But did it ever appeal to you, the idea of, like, him, Freddy Krueger attacking you in your sleep, and it's like you don't really want to go to sleep? Was that ever something that really scared you?
I'm not about to reveal the fan fiction that I used to write when I was a teenager. Like, don't put me on blast like that. I do want to say really quick before we go any further, because it's like the one like fun fact that I know that I don't know if it's going to come up at any point. But so obviously, if you guys know that Freddy vs. Jason was something in the works for quite a long time, and the Jason was played by the same guy, I forget his name now, but for 4 or 5 different movies, and he was told at some point that he was going to be Jason in Freddy vs. Jason, which he was like, yeah, pumped, this is what I'm looking forward to. But when it came time to actually cast for Freddy vs. Jason, they told him actually no, because he's about 6'1". Robert Englund is about 5'10". They wanted someone who was really tall to be a stark contrast as opposed to Robert Englund. So they instead got the guy who would be the stunt double for him, who was doing Jason, who's like in reality like 6'6". So there you go. There's my little fun fact. The guy who mostly played Jason kind of got pissed at Freddy vs. Jason because he thought that was his chance, and they said, no, you're not tall enough.
But, yeah.
That's
what
got
was
it.
Kane Hodder? Is that who it was?
I'm sorry?
Was it Kane Hodder, I want to say? Was that his name?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was excited to play the role, but he's like 6'1", which you're like, yeah, that's tall, but it's not that much taller than the guy who plays Freddy Krueger. And because they were like, no, we want Freddy to like really have to like strain his neck to look up to Jason, they decided to get the guy who did the stunts for Kane, who's like 6'6" or 6'7".
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Gotcha.
That's interesting. That is interesting. I do like that. But no, I asked that to you mainly because it was something that never really like scared me. I wasn't one that really had that many nightmares. If my mom was listening to this, she would tell you I'm lying. But I want to sound cool. But no, I didn't really have that many nightmares. So the idea of it didn't really scare me.
It didn't scare me just because I think when I was introduced to Freddy Krueger, I was, 14, 15, so at least old enough to grasp the concept that type of shit isn't real. But I've always thought that was really interesting because it's like, when you have a really bad day or something, you go to sleep to try and find comfort in your slumber, and you can't even do that because there's these horrific nightmares. But, it's not just that they're horrific nightmares. If you die in your sleep, you die in real life, which is also a really interesting concept as you get older and you find out that, in dream psychology, that you will never see your own death. Like, if you fall from something, you're always going to wake up before you hit the ground. So it's like the fact that they decided to take it where it's like, no, now you are going to see your death in your sleep is, to me, I just thought it was a really interesting concept for horror movies.
Yeah, that is terrifying. That happens to me a lot. I don't know why. Maybe I should get that checked out. Yeah, that happens a lot. I'm like, I feel like I'm falling, and then like I wake up and I'm like, what just happened? Like, the hell was that? Yeah, thank you for making me admit that on the podcast. Anyway,
hey, I have to talk about fan fiction, so.
No, but yeah. So I mean, this was more of a. So I want to ask you this, Tia. Kind of getting off that a little bit. We see, I think, our first few big kills around the beginning of the movie. Obviously, the insane stabbing someone through a tree. That was the first one. And then I think we get to our main characters having a house party, I believe. And then I think, isn't that when Jason did the whole bed thing?
Yeah, so I believe that is the succession. You know, you have Freddy convincing Jason. Freddy Krueger, you know, has his whole backstory where he kind of explains what happened to him and how people don't believe anymore. But, you know, every place has an Elm Street, so why not? And I do believe that then we meet our main characters and we have to go through those, like, you know, all that craziness. And then at some point, Jason does come and fold the guy in half. So that was crazy to me because it's like, but you knew, like, when you follow the trend or the formula, I should say, of horror movies, that guy was an absolute douchebag. So you're like, okay, he's definitely going to die. But I did think it was crazy the way it was shot with, like, Jason killing him and then folding him up in the bed. And then, like, the girlfriend coming out and she's like, oh, my God! It's just, like, it's ridiculous.
It was brutal. It was really brutal. If I'm not mistaken, didn't he, like, stab him a few times and then close him up in the bed? Yeah, it was overkill, Jason.
And he got stabbed. He overkilled him. And this is essentially, like, this is the beginning, because the whole point of Jason is that he's supposed to be killing people, but people don't see him. So then, because they're in Springfield, rumors of Freddy Krueger are going to keep popping up. So Jason's main objective here and his main use is to kill people, but for people to start circulating the rumor of it being Freddy Krueger, that way Freddy can start accessing their dreams again. So this is like the first kill in the line of that.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was 100% overkill. But again, it goes to how extreme this movie tends to be. And this isn't even the most extreme thing that you can expect from this movie, even though it is very extreme. But no, I mean, I do want to ask you this, Dom. I meant to ask you this before, but when you go back to the legend of Freddy and the legend of Jason, what used to kind of scare you more, the Freddy Krueger song or like the Jason Voorhees, like, I don't know what it is, like a deep breathing chant or whatever the hell?
Oh, yeah.
What used to kind of like, not necessarily scare you, but like what would kind of shake you more between the two?
I think Freddy's, his anthem is a little more of a chilling anthem. Because for some reason, little kids' creepy voices are creepy. I don't know what it is. I think that the funny thing about horror in the 80s and late 70s is that the writers always kind of seem to like either don't understand kids and teenagers, or they don't like them too much, or they're trying to warn them. I don't know exactly what it is, and I think that's why that it's always teenagers getting killed and not too many adults. And so I don't know if like Wes Craven originally was like, you know what, I don't really like these kids, so let's just make them like douchey assholes so people won't feel bad when they get killed. So but yeah, like the Freddy's theme was a little more chilling. I think Jason's, I think, is kind of a fun thing to mimic, because I remember as a kid or a teenager, or both really, is that people would do that all the time to try to scare people, but it was kind of just like a fun joke. So I think that his lost his luster a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it like this, right? I look at it to where it's like, if I'm in, if we're out in like the forest or the woods or whatever, like a bunch of friends, and we're like playing tag, and everyone goes and hides, right? And like I'm by myself trying to find where everyone's at, and I just hear the Jason thing. I'm done. Like, I'll probably freeze exactly where I'm standing. He'll probably come, like, fold me in half, and then fold me in another half, and fold me in another half, and use me as, like, a handkerchief. So, like, that'll scare me. But, like, if I'm walking down the street and, like, a kid rides by on, like, a little tricycle singing the song, I'm punting that kid, like, 50 feet. So, like, it doesn't really, like, scare me as much. But, like, the Jason thing, that really does. Like, that always haunted me. But the whole Freddy thing, it was usually only scary because it seemed like he would always have kids doing it. So it was, like, really eerie to, like, oh, my goodness, like, that 3-year-old is, like, singing Freddy's song. But I'm like, my mindset since I was young has always been, I will punt that kid. I had to tell my neighbors, actually, they thought it was funny a few years ago. They were like, their 4-year-old, they were going to have him, like, dress up as Chucky. And I told him, I have a long-lasting fear of Chucky. Don't do that. Like, and then he, like, started laughing. I'm like, no. I will Spartan kick your kid if he comes to my door at night with that Chucky costume. And, like, he was like, oh, you're serious? I'm like, no, I'm dead serious. So, like, they didn't come to the house at all. I'm like, well, you could have came. Just don't bring your kid. Like, don't have him dress up as Chucky. So, I mean, the Freddy Krueger thing just really never scared me as much as the Jason thing. Jason thing still to this day, shook to my core. Tia, so I'll ask you then, Tia, which one scares you more?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say, I know this isn't about him, but I always found Michael Myers' little tune to be scarier, just because there was one time that I was literally watching the first Halloween in the dark, and that came on. I was like, this isn't scary, and then I had to walk to the bathroom in the middle of, like, the pitch darkness, and I was like, I'm really terrified now. Yeah, I didn't, to me, like, as Don was saying, Jason's little jingle was always something that you kind of looked to imitate in school because it kind of sounded cool to go but Freddy's was more like ominous because it's taking something that's supposed to be like a schoolyard rhyme and saying all these like really creepy things, and there is something like really off-putting of children singing these type of tunes. So to me, I always felt that Freddy Krueger's was scarier. Also, they were like, it was like the anthem of death. If you were in any Freddy movie and you started hearing that, you're going to die pretty soon. So that was terrifying.
Yeah, Michael Myers, to me, I love that song. New Jersey and, like, clubs, they made, like, a club mix of that, so I like it, like, even more. So, like, I love Michael Myers' song. It never once scared me. It always made me want to dance. But, yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely right that when you hear the 1-2 Freddy's coming for you, nothing good ever happens. Like, you don't hear that and turn around and someone's like, hey, you dropped $100. Like, that never happens. It's usually, hey, like, I just slit your throat. That's usually what always follows that song. But in this movie, speaking of eerie children, we actually get, I don't know how far ahead I'm going, but we actually get one of the main characters is feels as though she's kind of hallucinating. Like, she feels as though, Freddy's in her head. So she's walking through, I believe it was a police station, and she hears this little girl with, like, her back to her singing the song, and she goes to turn the girl around, and the girl has no eyes. She has no eyes, and she's singing the song. Another reason why I punt these kids. You don't console them, you don't talk to them, you punt them. But go ahead, Tia.
Did you notice that that's the same little girl that they featured in the beginning of the movie when Freddy is talking about what he's done and who he is and all of that. Like, in the beginning of the movie, Freddy, as a human, is in his warehouse, the boiler factory, whatever, and there's a little girl there, and that's the same little girl that the main character hallucinates.
No, I didn't even know that. But that whole scene there was very terrifying. I don't know what scared me more, her singing it or her turning around with like no eyes in her skull. Haunting. It's all I can say to that. It's haunting. But I mean, to me, there's a lot of filler in between this portion of the movie heading into like the really good part. So I'll ask you, Tia.
Well,
go ahead.
No. Actually, I want to hear what you have to ask me first.
No, I was just gonna say what between the police station. So I don't know why that entire phrase just left my head. Between the police station and where we see Freddy as a slug smoking weed, what in between those two scenes stood out to you the most of Freddy vs. Jason?
Oh God, there's so much. See, the thing is that so this is called Freddy vs. Jason, but to me, in reality, it's so much of a Freddy movie because we really get to the what is happening to this town at this point. Why do they forget Freddy? Well, you end up finding out that in order to combat Freddy Krueger, they've literally given, every parent in the town has given their children medication that has prevented them from sleeping. They have redacted every single newspaper that has ever mentioned his name, and anyone who does recall Freddy Krueger gets sent to an insane asylum. So in between that time, we have the reveal of all of that. We meet the two boys who are in the insane asylum who break out, one of them being, Jason Ritter, the long-lost love of the main character. They break out and all of that. And then, so we get all that mythos there. And then in between that as well, we get Jason and Freddy essentially turning on each other because, as mentioned before, Freddy Krueger was using Jason as a vessel to get, pretty much all of his kills in. But Jason is an idiot, and he is a mindless killer. So he's not going to consider that. So when it comes to the point where Freddy Krueger can finally kill, it is taken from him in the real world by Jason. And I love that scene so much because Freddy is like, he's mine. And that's when, like, Freddy's like, all right, mother effer, we're gonna fight. And there's, like, all this goodness in between it. And I'm kind of like, I don't want to skip all of this. Like, there is so much, and, like, I'm sure Dom can attribute to this because we have the rave scene. And correct me if I'm wrong, Dom, isn't in between this scene is probably one of my favorite scenes in the movies. But it's when Jason is sleeping, or maybe I'm going too fast. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dom. Is when Jason's sleeping and they're in the boiler room and Freddy finds out that Jason's fear is water. Is that after the slug scene?
Yeah.
Okay, then there were. All right, so I won't go through that just yet.
It's not too far. It's not too far after, but it's in within that same sequence.
Okay. The slug scene was really freaking weird. That was just one of those cases where it's like, okay, this isn't scary. This is just weird. And again, to me, it's just like peak early 2000s, like craziness. But it just goes to show, like, Freddy's ability to transform himself to really capture, like, he pretty much changes himself based on whoever he's trying to bring in. Oh, and Dom's girl, Kelly Rowland, during this time, in her own little hallucination, gets her nose freaking cut off, which that is the scene that I always have to turn away for because for some reason I can't stand watching Freddy's claws come up between the freaking newspaper and tear her nose off. which I'm sure that our friends over there are just like, you guys said this was funny, and someone's freaking nose is getting torn off.
Well, to be fair, it is funny because what would have made it scary is if, like, he just reached up and, like, clawed, like, her nose off. That's not what happened. He goes, hey, got your nose, and then rips it off. So then that's kind of what makes it a little funny.
One-liners.
It's kind of what makes it a little funny is that Freddy saying, hey, got your nose, and then, like, it's literally ripping your nose off. But I think we skipped over I think we skipped over that. I thought you would have liked well, not would have liked, but I thought you would have highlighted Tia. Maybe you did. I may have forgotten. But the rave scene where Jason was just, like, ripping through people.
Well, yeah, and that's the scene.
Yeah.
And that's the scene where Jason kills someone that Freddy was hoping to kill, the drunk girl.
Right.
She's mine. Sorry, I don't know why I said he's mine, but that is that case. Yeah, no, that's another thing. I was like, there's a rave in the forest. What the hell? And again, you knew things were gonna go bad because you had all these, like, idiots in this rave scene, and they're just being like the prime examples of you're just cannon fodder in this movie, and Jason is just, like, slaying. And as you said, Juwan, walking the slowest that he could ever walk, and it's like people are purposely running into him to get cut up. They're not, and then, like, the fakest blood, like, you know, he chops them, like, once, like, barely, and all of a sudden it's like, I don't know, it's just, yeah, that rave scene was, like, something else.
Yeah, I mean, it's like he just walks in a straight line. Like, every time the person looks back, Jason's still walking. He never turns a corner. He never hides behind a tree. Nothing. He just walks in a straight line. You turn around and you go, how did he land in front of me? Like, he was behind me 3 seconds ago. That is the allure of Jason, I guess. I can't really explain it. I would love to talk to the person that created the character. See why they have
that just about any other rave? Like you're trying to dance with all people anyway, be like, how the hell did you get behind me?
Yeah. I mean, it's insane. It's insane to know that Usain Bolt could be running and Jason would be walking and still catch up to Usain Bolt. It's frustrating. It's the most frustrating thing ever. But that's Jason. That's who he is. I don't know. I would just like it to be like for someone to create a character that actually runs after you. Like, you know, you start running, they start running. Because then I could believe, like, you know, oh, they're, you know, they happen to be faster than that guy was or whatever. But when you're telling me a guy just walked a straight line and, like, I turned the corner and he's right there, how? Like, how? How is that even possible? But maybe I'm just putting way too much logic into a movie like this. But it has always bothered me. Dom, I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked Tia. Any big scenes stand out to you between the police station where we see the girl with no eyes and the slug scene?
No, I'm with y'all. The rave scene is definitely visually my favorite because after he kills that girl, which initially Jason wanted to kill the guy because the guy was trying to rape the girl that was passed out. Mm-hmm. And he just happens to kill both of them. But then once he starts going on his little rampage and he twists one guy's head all the way around, then you have the big guy on the football team who's a bully, throws beer on him and then lights him on fire. And just that scene of him walking through the cornfield on fire, lighting the field on fire, and then his sword or his machete's on fire, and he throws the flaming machete through the guy, and then just like slashing flame cuts was really great to see. But yeah, like, well, the guy, one of the guys he swings at, he completely misses and hits a keg, but then the guy comes up and he's cut all of a sudden. I don't know what happened. I don't know if that was some bad editing, but but it fits like kind of the cheesiness of the slasher genre, you know, from their time. So it kind of fit, but it was just kind of like, hold on, he didn't even get touched? Oh, it's an invisible Knife, cool. Okay, invisible knives. That's a thing. But that scene just visually just looked really cool because they had the really high wide shot, and yeah, I don't know, like, he's on fire and he's walking slow. If you can't outrun a guy who's on fire and walking slow, I don't know. I mean, maybe you deserve to die. I'm gonna tell you. There's no way. I don't know if he teleports. Maybe he teleports. Maybe since he's like, he can, his soul moves from body to body if he gets killed. Maybe he teleports, and we just don't know. I don't know how he does it, but it's an amazing feat apparently because it's an impending death. Once he locks eyes with you, it's a wrap.
Yeah, I was told it's just he has really long strides. I don't know how much I believe that, but I mean, I guess that sounds more logical than, you know, I don't know. I'll just go with strides. I'll say that. But no, you're right. That was a really crazy scene. Guy on fire, the flaming machete. It's just, this movie's insane. Now to fast forward to the slug scene, because I know KJ and Patrick, I know you're like, what is the slug scene he keeps referring to? The reason why the slug scene, the reason why the slug
talking about the slug scene, like, oh yeah, there's a slug scene in every movie. Let's talk about the slugs. No big deal.
Yeah, no, the reason why this stood out so much was it was this stoner guy, and it was like he was in like a control room or something like that. And you know, he starts lighting up a joint, and then like you just see coming out of like the air vent a Freddy Krueger slug. And like he just like looks at the guy, and then the guy just randomly is like, "Do you want to hit?" And the slug starts smoking.
He starts smoking
and
with
then I'm
him.
like, he starts smoking with him, and I'm like, what am I watching? Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tia and Dom. Doesn't this guy die by the slug going like into his mouth?
I'm gonna push that over to Dom because I don't remember that actually. How did he die?
I think the slug went into his mouth.
Yeah, he gets possessed by Freddy, and that was
yeah.
I don't know. So I'm guessing when Freddy went inside of him, he died, but Freddy like possessed him to inject Jason with those shots to put him to sleep.
Okay, I now remember exactly. He the slug blows smoke into his face, goes into him, and then as everyone's running away from Jason, you see the guy come out with like smoke bombs or whatever, smoke bombs I think it is or whatever, to put, like you said, to put Jason to sleep. I think that's how it went. But regardless, the craziest thing is the fact that a slug came out of a vent, and the guy, instead of freaking out, because I assume he thought it was a hallucination, he offers this slug to take some puffs of his said weed. Craziest thing ever. I am actually going to send you, KJ, the photo of what the slug looked like. So you guys can kind of get a proper idea on how insane this scene looked.
I can't wait.
But Tia, I'm going to go back to you. We know the events after this scene is, as you're getting to, Jason being asleep in the van, and then I believe Freddy looking to take advantage of that, and I think take out Jason.
Yeah, so they eventually get Jason asleep. And it is, like, honestly, my favorite scene one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, because in the middle of that dream, it's like, okay, now you're in Freddy's territory. It's like he can control the environment. He can control himself. There's so many beautiful shots of, like, as Dom was saying, he loves the shot of Jason on fire with the fire machete, but I love, and that was a great shot as well, but I loved Freddy just kind of like running his, the knife hands on the railing as he's kind of like coming up to Jason. And, not only is he pretty much displaying Jason's mother's decapitated head, but this is where we discover that Jason is afraid of water. I mean, I'm sure we probably knew that, but Freddy is discovering this for the first time because there's a stream of water and Jason refuses to cross it to, get to Freddy, and Freddy's like, oh, you are afraid of something, aren't you? And I just think that's so fucking cool to me. And reminds me again, if I'm wrong here, isn't the main girl also asleep? And she's kind of pulled into all of this. And isn't this where she kind of then discovers, like, Jason's story, because they then are now in Camp Crystal Lake? Because that was scary as hell.
Yeah, you're right. The other characters grabbed some adrenaline before they left the lab. To wake up Jason, and let me look up her actual name, so we're not calling her main character chick.
I
know. But yes, they grabbed some adrenaline to wake them up. Her name was Lori Campbell.
Okay.
They threw some adrenaline. They grabbed some adrenaline so they could wake her up before Freddy had a chance to kill them. But yes, we did. Go ahead.
And another random fun fact, because I, again, did listen to the commentary, and that's not me trying to be like, I did, but this is why it sounds so crazy with all these little fun facts. But in the scene where Kelly Rowland's character has to, which is like, man, does she draw the short straw or something, where she has to resuscitate Jason and give him mouth to mouth, that they didn't tell Kelly Rowland that when she moved aside his, like, hockey mask, that, like, water would be, like, spurting out at her. So, like, that reaction of disgust, it was all real and everything. So I just was like, poor Kelly Rowland in that scene.
Yeah, no, I would have been very upset. But yes, so we get to the I'd say the highest point of the film, where we engage in Freddy going into Jason's mind, and then us getting an all-out battle between Freddy and Jason inside Jason's mind, I think. And then I think we see the other characters trying to wake Campbell up before Freddy has a chance to kill her. And I think they also are I think they then think the best way to kill Freddy is Jason. So I think I think that. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
They know that if they're in Freddy's world, he will win 100% of the time. They need to their best bet is to bring Freddy into the real world to battle against Jason. So the whole point of Lori falling asleep is so that she can go find Jason, and when they stab her with the adrenaline, she is held on to Freddy so that she brings him into the real world. And it is the best shot ever when he wakes up and he figures out that he is around fire, which is his fear. Sorry, I'm getting pumped. Go ahead.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. You have two characters who are afraid of the easiest things to get a hold of, a body of water and some fire. So, I mean, that's hilarious in itself. But Dom, I'll kick it over to you. We see how hyped he is getting for this main battle. What were your thoughts as we were heading into pretty much towards the end of the movie, because we were getting into the big boss battle essentially between Freddy and Jason?
Yeah, I think just to preface that before we get before that part, the one thing that I didn't like that was kind of, I think when I was younger I didn't really pay attention to it, but when I got older and watched it, it was super like cheesily set up when they're in all the characters are in like this little meeting room or whatever in that station, and the girl, the main character Lori, she's like, so Jason's afraid of water and Freddy's afraid of fire. there's got to be something there. And I was like, what the hell? What kind of setup is that? Because I'm pretty sure Jason, in almost every single movie he's in, walks out of water or walks into water. So I don't think he's that terrified of it. But the fact that Freddy was in his mind and made him relive the drowning trauma, I think is what made him fear the water again. They ended up in the cabin, and the girl's hand starts to burn, which is what wakes her up. And like Tia said, that shot of Freddy like turning around, and he's like, oh shit, there's fire. That means I'm in the real world, and Jason looks pissed. And at this point, he's already killed a few of them. I think he threw one guy against the wall who was like the nerdy guy, and he gets like impaled by, or not impaled completely, like a nail or something goes to his back. And if he tries to run away, he just gets left by a tree to die. So he died in the most like anticlimactic way, and probably the worst way, because he was the nice guy who was trying to save Kelly, and she gets thrown across the room, and then she's like, I'll be back for you, and she doesn't come back, so he just bled out to death. But no, the setup to all that for them starting to fight is great, because weirdly enough, Freddy can fight. I don't know who taught him. I mean, he's been in hell for a long time, so I'm sure there's some evil dudes down there that know a lot of kung fu or whatever the hell he was doing, because Freddy can fight. And Jason never really had to rely on anything but brute force, so he's kind of getting, his ass handed to him a little bit. That whole setup was great, and then you get like they're just tearing into each other. It's like two lions fighting over a zebra carcass. Like there's no holds barred, and at this point you really don't know how much Freddy can take, because in every other movie when he comes to the real world, that's usually when he's defeated. But Jason, this is his realm, and he there's no stopping him. So like it definitely sets up a great climax.
I feel like when Dom was talking about the fire and water, something's there. But that scene also, like, doesn't that also blend into her falling asleep, and they're like, we must sacrifice the virgin. Like, they had to throw that in there. They're like, well, she's a virgin, so, she needs to be sacrificed. But I feel like, Dom, you probably love this shot where, going back to the cabin, when Freddy first wakes up, and Jason pretty much, like, picks him up and, like, flings him into the freaking windows or something of the cabin. I was just like, holy shit. He's like, choo. But I will say, then you were talking about Kelly Rowland leaving the poor guy, which was, again, incredibly anticlimactic. I felt that it was really uncomfortable that they had to put that one scene in the movie where she's talking to Freddy about how little his knives are, so he must be overcompensating for something. Yeah. And he goes, dark meat. And I'm like, did they have to put that in the movie? That was a little uncomfortable. But, yeah, and then he, like, points, and she, like, turns around, and there's freaking Jason, like, chopping her to bits.
Yeah, no, that was uncomfortable. That was uncomfortable for me for so many reasons. Very uncomfortable. But no, I think we glanced over it. Her leaving him, leaving the nerdy guy to die, needs to be talked about more. The same way Rose not really making room for Jack needs to be talked about more. It's just wrong. It's wrong, and I don't think anyone calls any of you ladies out for it, but it was definitely wrong. There was really two people in it. But anyway. No, Tia, that's what I was actually going to get into asking you. Kind of lead us into the end of this battle between Freddy and Jason.
Yeah, so we have them going up against each other and all that. And it is it is a long brawl, you know, and this is like what we've been waiting for, and it really is like a knockout fight type of thing. And just to let you all know, the film was directed by Ronnie Yu, who has kind of like worked with like I think kung fu movies, but horror movies as well. So I think that's why he was probably really good for this type of movie, because it is a brawl movie. And we start out with the cabin, and then we get to the scene where they're just flinging like metal rods at each other, and that's kind of like a really epic scene that like Jason is impaled with all these rods, but he somehow finds a way to kind of like pull himself off of the rods. And then they end up at some point at the pier, and it is at this point where they're just going at each other. I believe frickin' Freddy chopped off, you know, Jason's fingers. Jason like slammed his fingerless hands into Freddy's stomach, tore off Freddy's arm, and then I think Freddy uses the machete to cut into Jason. And all during that time, Lori and her boo thing are trying to figure out how they can be relevant. It's like, you know, humans in a Transformers movie at that point. They don't know what to do. But then they're making like some Molotov cocktail looking things, and so then all of a sudden it like whatever they do, it pretty much blasts like both Freddy and Jason off of the pier. And I want, you know, you obviously to turn it over to Dom and everything, but I have a very specific question after that, because I have one opinion, but I'm sure that other people have another opinion on it.
Yeah. This fight was worth the build up, only because of how crazy it was to see Freddy and Jason actually like fist fighting to some degree. So it was like the idea of seeing two characters you've never really seen go hand to hand with anybody use it for each other was hilarious. But Dom, how did you feel about the ending of this battle between Freddy and Jason?
Yeah, like you said, like this was what the whole movie was like leading up to. Like all the rest of it was just like nonsense. I mean, I don't want to say it's nonsense, but it's nonsense essentially, because this is just what people want to see. We want to see two of the best horror movie villains, slasher villains, mano a mano. Who's going to win, the master of mental manipulation or, you know, the monster? And, you know, clearly one's bigger than the other, and the other one's a little smarter. What you know, like he was saying, Freddy is, like, using his claws to, like, I think they were, like, some kind of canisters of, like, helium or propane tanks that they're launching themselves at Jason, and he's just walking through most of them, like he's dodging them slowly because he doesn't care. Then he gets hit by the one, and then, like you said, the metal bars go through him, and he's just not fazed by anything. And you know, which is like she said with the human. I don't know why the main characters were even there to even try to intervene, because at some point you just want to live. Like you can watch from afar, then go hide behind a tree and watch them tear each other apart, because at this point they're not focused on you. Run away. Because I don't know. I mean, I don't know why this Lori would think like I can finish this. No, they both don't like you. At the end of the day, if one of them fails, they're gonna kill you. But you know, she's doing her thing. But yeah, like when Jason uses Freddy's claw, impales him with his own glove because he ripped his arm off, and Freddy's using the machete against him. It's just great to see like all that back and forth. Because if you look at the whole movie, Freddy really didn't kill that many people. He killed like 2 or 3, and I think Jason killed like 15 to 20 people. So it's kind of like Freddy's got some ground to make up. And you get Freddy's one-liner used against him by Lori when she's like, "Welcome to my world, bitch." After after Jason had fell in the water, and then she cuts off Freddy's head, and for some reason she did some kind of G move where she was pouring one out for the homies by dropping the machete in the water. Like, yeah, I feel you. You know what I'm saying? But it was very much worth the wait.
So yeah, how did you feel about once Freddy's head got cut off? We obviously see again another shout out. This is important. I find it necessary to point this out any chance I can. Kelly Rowland survived in this movie, correct?
No, she did. She got
when did she
slammed
die?
up into it. When she's taunting Freddy about his tiny claws, and she turns around and Jason just slaps her.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So this is my important question, right?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna. I feel like I want to like plug myself, but I also forget the actor's name, which is really like shame on me. But I actually interviewed the guy who. So the movie ends, right, and we see that like end scene where Jason is rising up through the water with Freddy's head. Two things. I interviewed the guy who played Jason there because it's not the same dude. That was a shoot that they decided to do at the end because they had planned a second one. So they asked that guy to come in. He was also in Hellboy. He plays a lot of costume creatures. He was really cool. But I think that Freddy won in that. And I know it sounds far-fetched because it's like, hey, he's decapitated. But I think any time that Freddy is still alive, he wins because he can find some way to come back and manipulate himself. So he can find some way to like come back there.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was a huge scene. I thought when you see Jason coming out of the water holding Freddy's head and you like see Freddy wink, I know I lost it. I was like, oh, there's going to be another one, and then we never had another one. But I did think that was really dope. That it's like Freddy's not gone. And we unfortunately remember after this movie, a few years later, they did a reboot of Nightmare on Elm Street, which really then felt like we were never going to get, a sequel to this movie. But Dom, how did you feel seeing Jason come out of the water, obviously, seemingly looking to be the one that's victorious, but then you seeing Freddy wink?
No, I definitely feel that Freddy won. It's a little bit of bias because he's my favorite, but Jason cheated. Jason had help. Jason got his ass whooped, and the girl did the chopping. So Jason loses. His ass drowned. Yeah, that's a Freddy victory, and the fact that he winked is even more that he won, and I think that leads to the mythos of Freddy is that how alive or dead is he when he comes into the real world, because you think he gets defeated, essentially, but with the wink it's like, can you really kill this guy, or can you just make him disappear for a little bit of time? Because we kind of saw in that movie that if with Jason being as brooding as he is, if Freddy gets inside of his head, it's a wrap. And we didn't get to see. We saw him play with him. He's throwing him around that boiler room and beating him up. But if he really got to like be in there, Jason would be no more.
And is it that if Freddy's killed in real life, does he then just appear back into his boiler room and he can just go on and do the same thing he was doing?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I view this fight the same way I viewed the BVS fight, where I kept telling everyone that Batman won, even though he legit got his ass beat close to the end of that scene. once Superman got that kryptonite out. But to me, a victory means you didn't kill me. And Freddy, you didn't kill Freddy. He was still alive. So to me, that's a victory. I mean, we know who really won. It was the guy that was standing tall. But as long as he didn't die, I consider that a victory. But this movie found ways to be insane, and you can't really top getting more insane than the guy we thought died is having his head being held detached from his body, and then he winks. This movie found a way to kind of find numerous ways to top itself on how crazy can it get.
And correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it rumored that they were supposed to do a sequel of Freddy versus Jason versus Ash? I feel like I heard that somewhere, that was going to be a thing.
I want to say that I heard that more so towards when the show actually happened, Ash versus Evil. I don't know how serious those rumors were, but I did hear it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be against it. I don't know why more horror franchises don't cross over. It's one of those things to where it's like, crossover. I mean, it'd be perfect. Seeing Halloween crossover with Jason would be awesome.
No, it would just be two silent guys the whole time.
I like it.
Just
I like it. Give me a silent horror movie. Give me a silent horror movie where there's no talking. They're just staring at each other fighting. I will take it, and I will call that a classic horror movie. But no, I mean, I just think more franchises should cross over. We see James Wan is doing that with his Conjuring universe. But it's one of those things to where I think it's always been somewhat of a taboo that they feel as though crossing over. But we always feel as though action movies should cross over, and they never do. There's no reason why Charlize Theron should not be in the next John Wick as a crossover. Besides the fact that it took place drastically 2 different time periods. But it would just be so dope if they found a way to cross things like that over. But yeah, so I now direct it to KJ and Patrick. Have we struck any interest in you guys checking out this comedy, this family-friendly comedy that we call Freddy vs. Jason?
All families stuck at home should be watching a slug smoke weed.
Yeah, round up the kids, get your favorite Freddy vs. Jason. They'll love it.
Right. Now, Joe, I'm going to tell you right now, when we started off the show, you said, and I quote, it wasn't that bad. Okay.
I did notice that too. When you left the theaters, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, so I was like, all right, we're already starting with the ringing endorsement. So, all right, good start. When you guys started talking about the rave scene, her and I both looked at each other and we're like, the rape party? What? What's going on?
Yeah, we were disturbed.
We're like, oh no, the rave. Okay, we got that. Okay, now we're good.
I'm glad that was cleared up. Yeah, I'm really glad that was cleared up.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, now it just got weird, but okay, we'll keep going.
Yeah, we muted each other, and I was like, are they saying what I think they're saying? So thanks for clearing that up.
Now, and the other thing her and I talked about too was, now, and this is, not watching horror movies. I've never seen any of the Friday the 13th. I've never seen any of the Nightmare on Elm Street. Both of our best experience with either of these movies is from one of KJ's favorite bands.
Oh, really? You're going to bring up Dokken?
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Nightmare on Elm Street, number 3, the theme song. I was really into the hair band, so Dream Warriors was a big song for me. That's as far as I get into Nightmare on Elm Street. So I guess my question would be, I mean, I'm intrigued. Yes, you have piqued my interest, but are we able to sit down and watch this movie not having seen any of the other movies?
Yes.
Or is there?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, because they pretty much explain the mythos in the movie. Freddy in the beginning of the movie explains to you he was someone who killed kids, got arrested because of some fucked up paperwork. He got released. The parents in the neighborhood were pissed. They decided to track him down at the factory that he worked at and burn it, to burn him alive in it, which is why he's all scarred up and has a fear of fire. He pretty much made a deal with the devil to be able to continue killing, and he kills people in the sleep. There you go. Boom. That's it. And then Jason, his whole mythos is explained in, like, the middle of the movie. So it's like, you don't really need to have seen any of them, like, to me, who's watched all of the freaking Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Yeah, there's little things here and there, but not any that are really mentioned in Freddy versus Jason that are so important. I just gave you the background of who Freddy is, and there you go. Like, you don't need to really know what happened in the rest of them because it's never really brought up.
Gotcha. So let me draw it over to to something. So it's like watching Serenity without ever having seen Firefly.
Yeah.
I never watched either, so
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But okay, so I'll say this thing to you. It's the same how how I've been telling people numerous times that you can watch and enjoy Infinity War and Endgame, not have watched any other Marvel movie. Sure, there are a few things that you might not be as excited about because you don't understand the payoff. Sure, but could you still leave those movies going, I was thoroughly entertained? Absolutely. You don't have to sit through all 37 Marvel movies just to watch the two big event films. Just watch those two. But the payoffs mean nothing to you. Like, when Kat said Avengers Assemble, if you've never seen any of the other Marvel movies or read the comics, like, that to you was just like, all right, what's the big deal? Why is everyone cheering? But to the fans, like, that's huge. We've been waiting years to hear those words. So, I mean, that's how you look at something like Freddy vs. Jason, to where it's like, sure, would someone suggest to you, watch the other movies? Probably, but it has nothing to do with watching this movie. This is an event film, is how I look at it. And it's like you could just enjoy it for the idea of it being an event film.
That's a perfect way to describe movies exactly like that. And I guess I've never heard any. I'm sure it's a used term, or if you coined it, good on you. But an event film is actually a really good way to put that.
Go
ahead.
Oh, no. Keep going, because I was going to change the subject.
No, I was just going to say an event film, I classify it like that because I originally started saying event films because I looked at it when I was talking to my dad, and he was asking me why movies like Marvel movies and stuff don't really get nominated for Best Picture and Best Director and stuff like that. I'm like, an event film is a cheat code. And what I meant by that was you're able to do something in an event film that you can't do in a regular Oscar-nominated movie. You're pulling on a lot of things that a regular Oscar, like the idea that an Avengers movie is visually stunning is something that could bring someone in alone, like just to see the visuals of it. No one goes into The Irishman like, yo, the visuals of it, man, that was insane. Like, did you see how Nero jumped up and backflipped? Like, no. So it's like, it's a cheat code. So I said an event film because it's something that's a spectacle that kind of separates itself from the modern idea of cinema to certain people. So an event film is something that's to be celebrated, but 100% is not for everybody. So it's a way to kind of bridge the gap of it. So that's why I said an event film. But I'm sorry, KJ. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I just wanted to know, does the slug, I don't mean to be like kind of held up on the slug here, but does the slug make an appearance anywhere else, or why is there all of a sudden a slug?
Yeah, it was. I think Freddy saw how high the guy was getting, because he was getting like ridiculously high. And I guess he thought it'd be a way to like freak him out, I guess. But like, no, there was no setup to it. There was no build up to it. It was legit. The guy was sitting there getting high out of his mind, and then you just see the slug.
The slug never made an appearance in any of the other movies?
No. I'd pass that to Tia. No, right?
No, the slug has definitely never appeared in any of the Freddy movies. But it isn't.
Okay, because I would consider watching the other movies if a slug occasionally appears.
Well, I mean, in the first...
I was like, does Freddy have a pet slug? Like, that was what I was wondering. Like, is the slug like his sidekick or something?
And, and it's like when he's not doing anything, he just blazes up, and he's like, cool, what's up?
Yeah, no, that would be hilarious. But no, that would actually be hilarious if his sidekick was that slug. But no, it popped up literally just for that one scene.
All right. Well, so to answer your question in a roundabout, well, I guess I'll answer it directly now. Your question to me was, would I consider watching this movie now? My answer is yes. That's me personally. My answer is yes.
Is there?
Perfect.
Okay, because you kind of glazed over this like it was no big deal. Is there, did I hear right, there's a scene where Jason has girls in sleeping bags and he's beating them to death with each other?
Okay, not in this movie. Not in this movie. It was in a movie called Jason X. And it was a virtual world that they were in where these three girls were like in the middle of nowhere in like sleeping bags. So like Jason zipped them completely up and then just started hitting them with each other. And that was like the most fun I think I've ever had. Because it reminded me, because my mom used to always say to me, like, Juwan, when you play with your toys, it's like you're just like smashing them together. So like when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's what my mom means. That's what she sees when I play with my toys. I was like, I get it.
Yes, I'm sure that's exactly what your mother meant. Okay, well, I am convinced more that I would have more fun and less nightmares watching this movie than I thought before. So I will consider it, and I don't know what this says about me as a person, but I do kind of want to watch the girls in the sleeping bags getting beat to death with each other. So maybe we'll watch the next two.
That is definitely hilarious.
He completely glossed over, though, the best scene in that movie, though. It's not even that. It's not even the sleeping bag part. It's the part where he takes the girl. It's the part where he takes the girl's face and shoves it into like some liquid that literally freezes it, and then smashes it onto the freaking table, and it just like completely freaking like comes apart her face, and it's like, what the hell just happened here?
No, I mean, he is not wrong, but I still have never laughed harder in my life than I have with that sleeping bag scene. It's you just don't, you're not expecting it. So it's like when you see it, you're like, that is like the most creative way to kill someone. Like, I never thought of that. I've never been at a table where it was like, I could zip you up right now and beat you with him. I could do it right now. Like, I never thought of that. And it was like, oh. Well, there you go.
I think the funny part to that scene was the setup before he killed the sleeping bag girls, because they looked at him and were like, "You want to smoke some drugs? You want to drink some beer? You want to have premarital sex?" And then he's like, "Nah."
Yeah, I'm sorry I went quiet. I actually was just watching it because I'm sending you the clip, KJ. I was just
No,
watching
you
it.
are not.
And I did. I just sent it to you. And what was funny was, Dom, as you were saying that, they were saying it in the clip. I was dying laughing because I'm like, yo, this is just too funny. He just grabs them and just like beating them with each other.
Oh my
KJ,
God!
I just sent you that.
I'm
I just sent
watching
it to you. Funniest thing ever. Funniest thing ever. So I do have to definitely pat, Tia, Dom, and myself on the back for entertaining you guys enough to where you are interested now in seeing this movie. I think all three of us can promise that it is not scary. It's like it's not, as Tia was saying before, like you watch Paranormal Activity and then you question everything. This is more just like you'll leave this laughing. Like you won't say like, let me keep a hallway light on, nothing. You'll just laugh yourself to sleep essentially. It's super entertaining. It's wild. It's out there. Bag out there, but it's out there. It's definitely out there.
Well, I mean, the actor thing sounds pretty enthralling to me. So.
You guys will definitely have to come back to us once you've seen it and let us know what your thoughts were after you've seen the whole thing kind of play out. But I really do think you guys will have a laugh riot seeing this movie.
Well, thanks for letting us listen along with you tonight and inject here and there where we could.
Absolutely. We definitely have to do these more often with you guys. You guys are hilarious. We had a great time. Me and Tia were really looking forward to this because we talk all the time about how much we loved this movie, but we couldn't really find enough people that also enjoyed it, that were also willing to talk about it. So, like, in comes Dom. Dom's like, I will definitely talk about this movie. Me and Tia were like, there's no time better than now to finally review this movie. So I'm glad we got to. We definitely got to do these movie reviews more often, past, present, or whatever movies we could definitely break down. But there was one last thing. I wanted to kind of work this into the last few episodes that I've been doing because I had a fan cast idea. I don't know if many of you have ever played Assassin's Creed, but I actually got this idea, Tia, from Altered Carbon. The idea of Assassin's Creed is it's a Mobius kind of virtual world that this character gets put into where he kind of lives through different eras of assassins, so the Renaissance era and so on and so forth. And I was thinking, Dom, have you ever played Black Flag?
No, I have not.
You have not played Black Flag. KJ
No.
and Patrick, have you played any of the Assassin's Creed games?
My current video gaming console is the original thick box version of the PlayStation 2.
Yes.
That answered a lot.
Yes. But I still have my original working Nintendo and Atari, so they are original and still work.
No, so the reason the reason I brought it up was because HBO obviously is doing The Last of Us, which is based off of the video game. Showtime, Tia, I know, has this memorized for her boy Pablo Schreiber, is doing Halo. So I thought Stars should go after the Assassin's Creed, Assassin's Creed universe. And I think what makes Assassin's Creed special, Tia, is that it follows the same thing Altered Carbon does. So it does not have a singular assassin for every game. It's a different assassin per game. There was a stretch where, like, the first 4 games were all one character named Ezio. But after that, it really switched up. So I was saying, if you were Stars, you should do Black Flag, a game that's kind of based off of Pirates, where you go out and you get the guy who played Jon Snow, Kit Harington, to be your lead for that show. And then when that season's over, you do a completely new season with a different assassin, with a different character, And that way it stays fresh. You don't have to worry about getting stale with one actor. And we were saying before, Thea, how Altered Carbon does that, and if it continues, it should diversify more. Other races, genders, and I feel like Assassin's Creed would be perfect for it. But now that I've talked to you guys, and you're listening, and you're like, I have no idea what he's talking about, it kind of makes me feel like I just said that to myself.
Now, I'm sure there's somebody listening who's like, yes, George, you're right.
I know enough, but I do know enough about Assassin's Creed to know, like you're saying, like jumping through the, like the eras in time and stuff like that. Like, like for me personally, I love like time set pieces. I'm a big history guy, so. Like starting, like where you can jump around future, go back to the past, or, like everything in between. It's almost like Highlander meets a video game.
Right, and I think if Starz does it right, because I don't think Assassin's Creed, it's shown it cannot be a movie. It is better off as a series. And I think if you take Assassin's Creed as a series, it will definitely shine a good light on it. And the biggest thing is, I think if you're Starz, you're missing out. HBO is about to create so much revenue with The Last of Us. Showtime is about to create so much revenue with Halo. If you're Starz, you got to do something. And I think doing Assassin's Creed would be perfect for them because they actually have a show called Black Sails, which would be somewhat similar to the story of Black Flag. So I think it would be great, and you get star power in Kit Harington, somebody that a lot of people are familiar with because we've seen him recently. And by the time that comes out, the Eternals would have come out already, so we'll have seen him in that. I just think if you're Starz, it's best to not miss out on this opportunity. And I was telling Joel when we did the podcast yesterday that they're probably listening and they're probably going to do it, and then I'll get no credit for it. So I'm trying to say it as much as possible. So if it happens, you guys can go, no. Joanne definitely said that on air well before any announcements or anything came out. So
you need some executive producer credits there.
I would love it. Even if I'm not an executive producer, like I would love it if they just came out and was like, no, we definitely listened to Geek Vibes review and heard Juwan say that, and that's where we got the idea. I'll just take that.
You just get a little blurb in the credit, spitballed by Juwan.
Spitball.
Yeah, I mean, I'll even take it if when they show my name, they speed it up so I could barely see it. Like, I'll even take that. I'll be fine with that. Like, I live with that. That's not a problem at all.
The fast credits on cable TV movies.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, or specifically the fast credits when they're talking about medical history. Like, if you have and they say it, like, really quickly, like, I'll take that. But no, KJ, before we go off air, I do want you to plug Kinda Nerdy Girls.
Oh, well, thank you. We're excited to be a part of Geek Vibes Nation. We are a rotating cast of 4 girls and 1 guy. That would be producer Patrick here.
Hello.
And I'm a huge nerd as far as Marvel, Harry Potter, Doctor Who, Star Wars. Katie is a gamer. We have Tipsy, who is a paranormal investigator, and Shelley, who travels with the show Supernatural doing conventions. So we all have like weird lives together, and then this poor guy has to be on a show with all of us crazy women. So we call it Fandom Meets Fun because we don't ever get too upset about anything. We just try to have fun with whatever's going on in the world of geeks. So we'd love to have you guys join us.
Except for Jonna, she hates Batman. That's the hard
Jonna
part.
hates Batman.
Yeah. Whoa.
That's true.
I know, right?
Whoa. That is taboo to my ears.
I know, right?
We need to have you on our show, Juwan, to put Jonna in her place because she looks for every opportunity to diss Batman. And it's ridiculous.
That's unacceptable. I mean, you could talk about my family, my mom, my future kids, when you talk about Batman, that is a line that I do not really enjoy people crossing. So I would definitely, anytime you need me to hop on and praise Batman, I will gladly do so.
Hey, dude, I do my best to help you out. I mean, John thought it was even stupid because we went and saw a Lego Batman movie. When they showed Adam West in that, I literally screamed like a little girl. I was like, ah, oh my God. I mean, it was ridiculous because that's what I grew up on. I mean, that was my Batman. Julie Newmar, Julie Newmar and Yvonne Craig were my first crushes. I mean, that was my jam back then.
Yeah, Batman means literally everything to me. My stepdad raised me on Batman and Batman alone. I didn't even know any other superheroes till later on in life, where he started to show me other people existed. He only raised me on Batman, so I know everything there is to know about Batman. So I worship him. So it was the best of both worlds when Ben Affleck became Batman. I know, Tia, you're rolling your eyes. But when he became Batman, because it's the best of both worlds. I love Ben. I love Batman. I get to have Ben Affleck as my Batman. It was the greatest time ever, but it was short-lived because Tia ruined it. But I won't get into that. Make sure you guys. No, go ahead. I'm sorry, KJ.
No. I'm with you. I thought there were a lot. We could go on and on about the problems surrounding the movies that Ben Affleck was in as Batman. But Ben Affleck as Batman was a good Batman.
Yeah. I mean, again, on a different podcast, I will specifically get into. On a different episode, I will specifically get into how Tia sabotaged all of that. But because there was a lot of work going on with Tia, but I paid Tia back by ending John Bernthal's Punisher, so I was able to pay Tia back for that.
Yeah, you did.
So I paid it forward. But no, please, everyone, make sure you go check out Kinda Nerdy Girls. It is such a good time. I have so much fun listening to it. Me and Tia definitely do. Make sure you check them out, please. And we will definitely have KJ and Patrick on so much more in the future. You guys are so much fun. But before we close out, Tia, I want you to give your podcast a shout-out.
All right, well, 3 things, all right? I always have to defend myself and say that I grew up on Batman, all right? Batman was my jammy jam. I have literally a Batman symbol tattooed on my finger. I don't think that you can get more exposed than that. Every time I shake someone's hand, there's Batman. It was just that slick. But anyway, so 2 things that you guys got to look out for this weekend. Tomorrow, Kelly and I are actually going to do a special kind of review show of Netflix's The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez. I know that that's not necessarily a happy subject, but we felt that it's something to talk about and that we must. And then obviously on Sundays we do the top 10, me and Brittany and whoever else wants to join. But it's going to be the top 10 quarantine and chill movies, because why not? While we're all self-isolating right now, is the perfect time to catch up on films, and we just want to go through what are the best ones to watch when you're stuck at home.
I think we went over one of them today, so I will be looking to see if this one pops up. But yes, and Dom, you actually have a podcast to plug also, so definitely give yours a plug.
Yeah, so mine is called Chopping It Up with the Homies, all one word. It's me and 3 of my buddies. It's like a philosophical pop culture podcast. We have about 150 episodes, and it's been a while since we've done it. I think the last new one was probably a month or 2 ago, but I have one in the chamber that I've been editing with a friend of mine who works on a TV show. She's a writer on a TV show, so that will be out very, very soon.
Yep, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that. We got so much good stuff over here at Geek Vibes Nation. So there's no excuse. There's no excuse. We cover a multitude of things. And as you guys know, I have Geek Vibes Live with Thea and Dom usually. So make sure you check that out every Sunday or whenever we tend to put that out. It's not usually Sunday, but whenever we put it out, make sure you guys stay tuned for that. And we were going to try to set up a lot of interviews for while people are quarantined, but then we kind of thought it's probably not the best thing to reach out to people now. So we got a lot of interviews heading you guys' way. Hopefully once things start to get a little better. But yeah, so I mean, again, this is the perfect time for you guys to listen to all of our podcasts. You have nothing else to do. You're stuck at home. So listen to our podcast while you're cleaning, cooking, exercising, whatever. We have so much content for you guys. But again, KJ, Patrick, Tia, Dom, thank you guys for joining me on this Geek Vibes review of Freddy vs. Jason. So we'll see you guys on the next review.
See ya.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Peace.